Next example, same direction. Find cosine and tangent of theta using the given information. So this time I'm given secant of theta equals 3 and sine of theta is greater than 0. Okay, so secant I know is the reciprocal of cosine. And to start with, I just need to figure out whether the trig ratios are positive or negative so I can identify a quadrant. So if secant is positive 3, that means that cosine would be positive. And over here, sine of theta is greater than 0, that means positive. So in order for cosine to be positive and sine to be positive, I'll have to be in quadrant 1. And so I can go ahead and draw my reference triangle. Start at the origin, across the x-axis to the right this time, since I'm in quadrant 1. I'm going to go part way out along the x-axis and draw my second vertex, turn my right angle and go up until I hit the unit circle. There's my third vertex, hypotenuse connects. All right, so I've got my reference triangle drawn. Now I can start labeling sides. So I'm going to go back to secant. Secant of theta equals 3 was the piece of information I was given to start with. So secant is the reciprocal of cosine. Now if I pay attention to the numbers, the value of secant, in addition to just whether it was positive or negative, if I do the reciprocal of secant, I get cosine, and then if I do the reciprocal of 3, I get 1/3. So secant of theta equals 3. I can rewrite that by doing the reciprocals to find out that cosine of theta equals 1/3. Now I know the adjacent side is 1, the hypotenuse is 3. There are two sides of my triangle. So my next step will be to find the missing side. So I use the Pythagorean theorem every single time. So I will call this y. We got 1 squared plus y squared equals 3 squared. So it's 1 plus y squared equals 9. Subtract the 1, y squared equals 8. Square root both sides. Y equals radical 8. And if you wanted to go with radical 8, that's totally fine. But of course, good math practice would have us simplify this. So I can say 8, the square root of 8 rather is the same as the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. And again, I'm choosing to use 4 because it's a perfect square number. Y equals 2, radical 2. So there's my y value. I'm going to erase the y out of my reference triangle and change this to 2 radical 2. Now I've got all three sides of my reference triangle labeled. So now I can use that information to construct the trig ratios I was asked for. So cosine of theta I've actually already found. That's 1/3. I do want to check to make sure whether it should be positive or negative. And so I'm going to go think about this. Since I'm in quadrant 1, everything should be positive, so I don't need to worry about should one of these side lengths actually be negative to match the context of the graph. In this case, everything should be positive, and that's the way I've already labeled it. So cosine of theta equals 1/3, and then tangent of theta, that's the opposite over the adjacent, so 2 radical 2 over 1. And do I really need to keep the over 1? I do not. So you certainly could write your answer as 2 radical 2 over 1. I'm going to simplify that and just say it is 2 radical 2.